Hello everyone, my name is Paul De Podesta, and I'm here today to talk about the historic game of baseball and how it has progressed throughout the years because of sabermetrics. But first, a little bit about myself. I'm a graduate of Harvard University with a PhD in economics. While at Harvard, I played on the football and baseball teams. But my career started when I went to be a scout for the Cleveland Indians, and after 2 years I was promoted to the special assistant to the GM of Cleveland. In 1999 I joined the Oakland Athletics, where the book Moneyball takes place. So what I would like to share today is all about the story of the 2002 Oakland A's, and this was a story written by Michael Lewis. But first off, I would like to talk about the GM, Billy Beane, because he's very crucial to this story. Billy Beane was a youngster playing lots of sports. He was very good, and scouts told him he had the 5 characteristics that make up a good ball player. And they are the ability to run, the ability to throw, field, hit, and hit with power. The future looked good for Billy when the Mets offered him a chance to play pro ball straight out of high school. But that was his first mistake, making a decision solely based off of money. His career never went the way he wanted, as he was always the younger guy with a lot of pressure on himself, and he never developed into a good player. But after his career did not work out, he still became the GM of the Oakland A's. The key to the baseball franchises were 3 things: trading, selling, and drafting players. Now, this was crucial for the A's because there were rich teams, there were poor teams, and as Billy Beane would like to say, 60 feet of crap, and then there were the Oakland A's. So, the first thing was the draft. Slide. So, often when scouts were looking for drafts, they were looking for the new high school players that were going to be the new thing. However, Billy Beane, a high school player himself, being drafted and how it didn't work out, he knew high school players were unreliable and they were not the people to look for. Rather, they would look for university players who people wouldn't necessarily suspect. For example, Jeremy Brown. Jeremy Brown was an overweight player at the time, but everyone thought, how would you ever get a fat person on a baseball team in the MLB? But what they didn't see in him was that he could hit, and he got on base a lot. The Oakland A's in 2001 had 3 star players: Isringhausen, Giambi, and Damon. These 3 players were the key to the franchise, and after the season was done, they wanted more money, so they would go to a richer ball club, which meant what would happen to fill in their places? Well, there was a new system in town called sabermetrics. Next slide. So it may seem complicated like this, all these formulas make up sabermetrics, but actually it's all these computer programs that a person named Bill James came up with. He was a little bit of a baseball nut, and he studied a lot of things. So for example, a lot of teams thought home runs were the key to success, but really, home runs often leave players to pop out a lot and only get a home run every once in a while. And if you have no one on base, then you're only going to get 1 run at a time. So, next slide. The Oakland A's decided they would try pick up these type of players. First one, Bradford. He was a pitcher who most people would say he's a waste of time. Why? Because he had a very weird delivery where he almost windmilled it or submarined it so low that the hitters could almost hit it every time. But what they didn't notice is Bradford had such a good pitch that only allowed hitters to hit ground balls, which meant no doubles, triples, or home runs ever. And often, if the infield was good, they would get out every time. So he was actually one of the better pitchers in the league, which no one would realize. Next was David Justice. He was a veteran of the league who was pretty good in his prime, but now he was starting to get slower and he wasn't good at it anymore. But what he did have was a very high on-base average, and that is because he knew how to take walks. So the third player was Hatteberg. he was the biggest pickup for this team. He was a catcher for the Dodgers before this, and he suffered an injury in the offseason where his right arm nerve would no longer work, and so he could no longer throw the baseball with strength. However, he had an unreal batting average, and he could get on base every time. So the Oakland A's picked him up and had a new star player because they played him on first base, and he was a key to their success. Next slide. So with their team's strategy of get on base, because if you get on base, you can score, they went on a 20-game winning streak and it actually came first in their division. However, in that season, they lost to the New York Yankees in the finals of the ALDS. The problem with the sabermetric system is that it works very well for the regular season, but not as great for the playoffs. In conclusion, what I've learned from this is that often a lot of people are undervalued and underrated, and people pass them by because they're not the next flashy thing that they think will win them a World Series in one night. However, if you can take a lot of players and break them into a great team, that is where success comes from. As Billy Beane once said, he's given a whole bunch of car parts and he just has to put the car together so it can go down the road. And then as the season progresses, he pushes it and makes it faster. I hope you enjoyed learning about sabermetric system. Thank you for listening.